everyone, it's Michelle with It's a Family Thing channel. Today's vlog is actually all about my daughter and food allergies actually. So I thought that it might be a good topic to approach because it turns out that she has several different food allergies, one of them being soy, and there's a lot of different things that are symptoms for it, and we went through some pretty traumatic testing and things to finally get to that conclusion. And if there's anything that we can do to help somebody else not have to go through quite as much, we've talked about it and we're like, you know what, this is what we need to do. First of all, I hope and I pray for all of you that you do not have that or any other severe food allergies, because they can be real challenging. So Bella is 13, and so it's been about 2.5 years ago that I thought she got a stomach virus. She was just throwing up profusely, and there was tummy bugs going around. It was that time of year, and this thing was just not getting any better. It just kept going and going and going, and she just got so dehydrated. And when I say she was vomiting anything and everything. She could not even hold like a sip of water. She would drink a sip of water, it'd come right back up. It was like her stomach was made of rubber. Whatever went in just literally came bouncing right back out, and it was just kind of crazy. So that went on actually for about a week, I want to say. And so I had taken her into the pediatrician, said like, I don't know what's going on. This bug is just not going away, and she was very dehydrated. So the first thing we did is she sent us over to a different clinic and said, let's get her on some IV fluids and get her back hydrated. Maybe that's going to help get this passed. And she gave us some Zofran, and because Zofran like helps so many people whenever you're nauseated, and so we're like, okay, that's great. And if it continues, you go ahead and take her into the children's hospital. So we waited a few more days, and still the vomiting is just as profuse. She is already back down. I mean, she get really bad, like veins showing here. She's very fair complected, and just so weak, and still unable to hold anything down. And so whatever they had put into her was already starting to come back out, and just not getting any better. So we then went on to back to the hospital, where she actually was admitted for the first time. We actually had back to back thing. So she was admitted, and they did all, of course, they could not actually run a line. Her veins were so bad because she was so dehydrated. It was very traumatic, and we have an amazing hospital out here that if you have a child and you have to go, we're so lucky to have them. So it was still so hard and very scary, because nobody really knows what's going on. And so we went through this whole process where at first, the first visit to the hospital, they weren't sure. They thought it was this thing. They actually thought that maybe she had some blockages or some like a little bit of constipation, because whenever they do the x-ray, they would show that there's some stuff up in there. I know she's gonna hate me for telling you, but this is how it started. So the first visit, before they would let her leave, they did a massive, what they called like a clean out. They didn't make her do like enemas or anything, which thank goodness, because they wanted to, but we were like, is there any other thing? Because she was just traumatized by even the thought of it. Of course, I think I am too. So we did this. She had to drink this gallon of, it was actually multiple gallons of this really awful fluid stuff. And it was really, really, really bad. And basically they wanted her to go to the bathroom until there was like nothing but just that clear liquid coming out. So then they would not let her go home until that happened. So she was hydrated again at this point because they did finally get a line ran and all of that. You know, where there's a will, there's a way. They, of course, are going to make sure that happens. But we were there for 3 or 4 days that time. And we did the clean out. She did seem to get better. She seemed to kind of stabilize, go back to school, get everything going. And it's like 2 weeks later, it starts again. And we're like, what is going on? And so she's vomiting again. She gets dehydrated again. We go back to the hospital. They admit her again. We have to go through the drama of the IV being ran so that she can get her fluids. They are trying everything, all kinds of anti-nausea medicines. Nothing is working. They don't even help her in the least. And they even would give it to her intravenously. And it helped a little more than the tabs, but really not that much to stop it at all. And so she's just going through all of this stuff. And this is a kid that was so healthy before. No problems from the day she's been born. I mean, like, she's had no health problems at all. So then they start talking about, like, okay, we need to visit a gastroenterologist, a gastrologist. And so we scheduled that appointment. They talked to her, you know, had a counselor come in and talk to her because anytime there's stomach issues, they're like, okay, it could be because they're stressed at school and that kind of stuff. I went ahead and scheduled an appointment with the allergist to see about that, but they had put her on an antihistamine. Well, it actually wasn't an antihistamine. It was a different medication that was for the stomach, but one of its things in there acts like an antihistamine. So when I was able to get into the allergist first, allergist said, like, she definitely has some allergies. He could tell seasonally and that kind of stuff. He's like, but I can't do her full testing until she's able to be released from taking this medication. And I suggest that you go ahead and you proceed with your gastrologist appointment and see what they say, because this does sound like it is something stomach related. Like, okay. So we leave there. In between being that appointment and the appointment with the gastrologist, we end up getting readmitted again to the hospital, going back over there, having a lot of that kind of trauma. So he was able to come see her at the hospital and do an evaluation of her there. And then we went ahead and he had scheduled a scope. And what they did was also, so they scoped her and they did a balloon dilation of her stomach opening because they felt like maybe it was a little bit compressed so that it was locked down, and whenever the food is coming in, that it's basically not opening up to pass on through. So they thought maybe that was what was happening. So they did that. Hugely traumatic for her. Also expensive, you know. They also tried to give us several, I mean, like the amount of medication on my counter was insane, because we would try this medicine, didn't work. We tried this medicine, it didn't work. She'd get a little bit better, then she was back and she was vomiting again. And so then they had prescribed this one medication, but they weren't sure if it was going to work because they felt like she had stomach migraines. A stomach migraine, for those of you who do not know, because I did not know, if you've ever suffered from a migraine or a really bad headache, a lot of times you'll get nauseated, and you will be sensitive to light, and basically all of the symptoms of a migraine, with the exception of the headache, is a stomach migraine. And so you get very nauseated, you have sensitivity to light, all that kind of stuff. She actually still does have some of this, in addition to the food allergy. So this seems to be kind of a hand-in-hand thing for her. So we had already already went and had the scope done, and now she's got this, and then they prescribe this medication, and I go to get it filled, and the pharmacist is like, do you know how much this costs? And I'm like, no, and they come back with after insurance, and our insurance covers quite a lot. After insurance was going to be $1,100. And I was like, okay. And they said, this is really rare that they would try to give this kind of medicine. We're looking at her history, and this doesn't seem like kind of hand in hand because what normally this would treat. I'm like, well, this is what they said. I was like, so I said, can we hold off on it? It had to be specially ordered anyway. So I called a nurse back. I spoke to her. I explained the insurance. I'm like, is there a way that we could try like maybe 4 or 5 pills to see if they work? Because I already have, all this other medication and nothing has worked. And then I do not have $1,100 to spend on something that's going to just be sitting on the counter that did not work. So is there something else we could do? So then they tried another medication. She understood. That's kind of abnormal for most of us average people to be able to pay that kind of money for medication. And you know what? If I had known it would have worked, I would have figured a way. But like I said, we had pills upon pills upon pills, and nothing's working. So then they also sent her for an MRI, because another thing that can be indicative of this kind of vomiting and everything, and after the clear stomach, all that looked perfect, would be that there could be some sort of brain tumor. And of course, as a parent, you hear this and you are mortified. You can't really tell your child what's going on. You're just like, you're gonna go do this. So then we go, she's super nervous for that. And every single time we had some sort of major procedure done or test done, she really got so scared and so worked up, and everything, it seemed to just catapult her right back into it. And then boom, she's vomiting again. She's dehydrated again. So we started working on it where we would just kind of do like literally teaspoons of water and see how many she could hold down, just to keep enough so that she wouldn't have to be readmitted to the hospital. And that did seem to work a little bit. We kind of started we kind of came up with our own thing. This is after she'd already they thought that she might be having a gluten allergy. And we thought that was going to be the end of the world, because she loves wheat, she loves bread, she's a real healthy eater, all on her own, doesn't drink any sodas. She's very very health conscious, all by herself. So MRI comes back, everything's good, thank goodness. Again, expensive. We have insurance, but still you have co-pays and you have expenses outside of that. And so, I'm still paying medical bills from 2 years ago from this whole experience. And of course it's traumatic, and we have multiple children, and my husband has a job, and so if I'm like, okay, I have to go to the hospital with her, and of course she wants mom, nobody else, and that's understandable. And mom wants to be with her too. So it definitely was challenging time. And this is with something that, if you look at it compared to what other people go through, it's nothing, because other people go through really serious, chronic, scary, heartbreaking situations. But as a parent, even when you're going through something like this and it's nothing serious, but you still can't get an answer to what it is, you are worried. You're worried until somebody says, this is what is going on with your child. So the reason that I am making this video is to tell you, do the allergy testing first. Get it ruled in or ruled out. It's the simplest thing, it's the most cost-effective thing, and it is the most painless thing. And it's the least traumatic for your child. So in our case, so we went in, she was able to drop off the other medication that would have been a block for her. We went in, they did it, they did an expanded panel. It was not painful. She said it felt like little tickles on her back. And so it comes up. And funny thing is the doctor, he says, well, she has a soy allergy. I'm like, oh, that's not a big deal because we don't eat soybeans, whatever. I had no clue what was in everything. I mean, and I challenge you to go look through your pantry and go look through your refrigerator and find the very few things that do not have soy lecithin in there. Any vitamin, guess what? She took a lot of vitamins. Any vitamin has most of it has soy lecithin in there. Almost every single kind of protein drink, guess what? We tried to give her a lot of protein drinks because she couldn't hold anything down that was solid. So tried to give her a liquid diet, made it worse. Bread, almost every single bread has it or has a possibility of it, unless you make it from scratch. So pretty much anything that you make from scratch, you can avoid your soy, because soy is used for so many different things. One of those things is a preservative. It is in a lot of pastas. It's in almost all of your soup. It's in chicken noodle soup. It is in almost all of your seasonings. Onion soup mix. Bubble gum. Like it's truly in almost everything. So, because almost everything is to be preserved. So this is where I was very, very wrong, very naive, and felt like the worst parent in the world when you find that out and you know that you've actually been giving them more stuff that had it in there and didn't know. So in addition to soy, she has almonds, peanuts, shellfish, cashews, a few other little sprinkling of things. Not one of these things is a food allergy, like where somebody that have a severe peanut allergy or severe reaction. She does not have the severe reaction. What happens is her body has a slow reaction. So as like she would just be eating her normal diet and all that soy is coming in her body, then it was like building up, and then boom, her body just shuts down. And like that thing with her stomach did literally just close off. So that was the reaction, and then everything is coming back up. Water, didn't matter what it was. So because the body was just shutting it down, that like, okay, nothing new coming in is going to be bad until I can clear all of this out down here. So this is what happens to her. It still happens, even though we monitor her food like crazy. So I still feel like there's even additional steps that we need to take to help her, but it's not as frequent. And I actually probably going to take her in for another round of allergy testing, as they said there are additional panels to make sure that there's not another something that is happening that we're feeding her. I mean, it's kind of hard because she has a really limited diet already as it is. It is very limited. But so my advice to you is go with the rule in or rule out method of getting your allergy testing done first, because it could be something very simple that is creating this problem. And if you're like me, you probably thought like, if my child has an allergy to something, it's going to be immediate where I'm going to see it. They're going to have hives. They're going to have, closing of the throat, or all of the typical things that you have always been taught that if you have a food allergy, this is what to look for. But this was not something I had ever known. And I mean, I've been in a lot of situations, and she's my third of four children. So, we've been through a lot of different things. And so if that helps you, that's what I would say to do. Definitely listen to your doctors and follow what they say. But I would choose all the things that are the least traumatic for your child and the least invasive for your child in that order, if you can, because there's going to be things that they find out along the way that maybe will eliminate some of those more aggressive things that are going to be so traumatic for them and for you. This is hard to tell your kids, you've got to do this. If you have any questions or comments, or if you feel like you would like a follow-up, I can certainly share things like what some of our recipes are and where we get them and where we've had to do shopping. We've had to change how we shop, where we shop, even like what you look for, because it is truly in everything, and anybody who has a soy allergy or like a gluten allergy can completely relate, because those two things are in so many of our day-to-day products. So it makes it really challenging. But I hope that our story will help you, because nobody had any idea for us. So, and then later, as you start to talk to people here or there, they're like, yeah, I had this kind of thing happen too, and this is what they did for us. And so it's not that it's uncommon, but it's not as common as other things that come to mind first for maybe your doctors. And you need to always remember that you know your child best. So listen to your doctor, but if you feel that there's a better order to take things in, you need to speak up and do it. So I apologize that this video went a little bit long, but I wanted you to know kind of the A, B, C, everything we went through, so that if you are seeing anything that is similar for you or your child, that it might help you. So you know that we went through a little bit. So we are 2.5 years later. We still have a few things. We still have some of those stomach migraines. If you look them up, it's kind of vague what to do about it. So, whenever you look up stomach issues in general, there is just like a plethora of information out there and possibilities. And when you start to read about it, it's terrifying, because obviously there's worst case scenarios. Go with your simplest solutions first. Rule in, rule out. And then go from there until you start going into the more heavy things. And I hope and pray that you do not have to go through that with anybody. But if you do, I hope this helped you. And if you would please comment. And if you're going through anything and you have any questions, or if you need a follow-up video on anything, please let me know, and I'll be happy to do that for you. And make sure that you subscribe, because we do our vlog on all kinds of topics, and this one is just happened to be something that I felt on my heart that maybe it would help somebody out there. When I look at it, if it helped one of you, then that is awesome, and it was worthwhile for my 20-25 minutes. So have a wonderful evening, happy holidays, and we will be seeing you on the next video.